I think just taking action and doing is always better than doing nothing. Anytime you're doing, you're moving forward. And if you stop and just stand there and wallow, that's when things are bad. I think your mind and your soul needs to see you're progressing somewhere and making some kind of movement. So I think doing is always good.
I sat down with Angela Gilman, a professional storyboard artist, prop builder, scenic artist, and co host of the Let's Design a Life of Joy podcast that she started with her twin sister. Angela and I met through a podcasting mastermind, and I had the opportunity to hear a bit of her story during a hot seat moment with our coach, Kathy Heller. Angela shared about a recent time in her life where she hit rock bottom. However, she quickly realized that the only way she knew how to move through it was to look for and cultivate more joy in her surroundings. Angela was able to not only bounce back into her joyful state of being, but she also gives back through community and volunteering and shares ways in which we can all experience more joy in everyday moments through her podcast and social media content. I asked Angela to be a guest on the show and talk about her way back to joy because I think it's something a lot of us can relate to or that a lot of us are striving for. On this podcast, we talk a lot about balance, and I think joy is a significant piece of life's pie. I've come to believe that we have to start recognizing joy as our natural state. Just like children, we are all born into this world as joyful beings. And Angela's career certainly requires a playful, joyful attitude. She has worked in the animation industry for 24 years while balancing her life with her husband, 3 kids, and what she thinks is too many pets. She currently works for Nickelodeon on the preschool show Baby Shark. In addition, some of her favorite projects include The Iron Giant, The Simpsons, The Tigger Movie, F is for Family, and Mary Poppins Returns. Her clients have included the J. Paul Getty Museum, HBO Max, Activision, Oakley, and the Call of Duty Endowment. Angela's work has been seen on television, studio premiere parties, live pop-up experiences, and even outer space. Please enjoy today's episode with Angela Gilman.
I just want to be like a joy consultant or a joy ambassador, kind of help people find their way to it. Try to invent something weird, like
I think a lot of people are missing true joy. Like there's happiness and there's joy, right? For those of you that don't know, Angela and I are both in a podcasting mastermind with Kathy Heller. And Angela was fortunate enough to get a hot seat moment with Kathy. And I thought it was really inspirational. And I think that's a great place to kind of kick things off.
so. I was discussing with her the topic for my podcast, which is joy, and how I just want to kind of help people find their way to it. And my journey from that was during the pandemic. About a year and a half before that, my husband had lost his job and he could not find another one for the life of him. Like nobody wanted to hire a middle-aged white guy. And so he's saying all this stuff about how the job market is so crazy and stuff, and he couldn't find anything. And he was just looking and looking and looking. And we carried through on savings and all that kind of stuff. And then right before the pandemic hit, we realized we just couldn't keep our house anymore, couldn't keep going. And we had waited too last minute. We should have had some savings and then just moved to another situation. But we were so hoping because we loved our house. We had lived in it for 16 years. When we had gone house hunting, I had told my husband, I want a house with a red door and a picket fence and a jacaranda tree in the front, and thinking I will paint the door and plant the tree and put the fence up. When we pulled up in front of that house, that's exactly how it was.
Oh,
It had
wow.
this big, in full bloom jacaranda tree, which if you don't know what kind of tree that is, they get these purple flowers on them that just they glow, and they when they fall on your lawn, they make the lawn glow, and they're just amazing trees. And that was like, this is our house, and I just really felt like this connection to this house. So we really didn't want to give it up. So anyway, we waited to the last minute, had to sell it, and then we're like, okay, now we don't have money to get another place. And I was working, but I work in animation. So some jobs are short and some are longer term, but you're never on staff anywhere. So the jobs that I had been getting were all these really short ones, like things for Netflix Like for F is for family, where it's like we were done in 10 weeks. Like you don't have a long time. So as soon as you start a job, you're looking for the next job. So I didn't feel like I had a whole lot of stability there. Like I wasn't on a long-term project. So we decided we needed to just move in with my twin sister, which their house is really, really small. She has her kids and her husband and her pets, and we all had to move in there. And the biggest bummer about it was right next door to my house. That was so hard to be right next door to that house because I missed it. I didn't wanna sell it, you know?
Yeah.
Seeing people in it, like, I'm getting all emotional, that was, like, hard.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then before we made the move, I met with a therapist, and she said, "Okay, this is how you're gonna do it. You'll just go out a lot. You'll go do things, and you won't be in the house so much. So it'll give everybody space. You'll have something to look forward to. You don't have to be at home all the time." So I was like, "Okay, perfect. That's what I'll do." And I had it all planned out how we were gonna manage our days, and then right after we moved in, COVID hit, and then we couldn't go anywhere. So then I
Mhm.
was, like, stuck in the house, right next to the house. My husband's still looking for work, which has now become way more difficult because we're in a pandemic and he can't network and he can't go out. So then I started working on a new job, and I didn't know the program that I was using. Like, it was a director that I worked with before, and he's like, "Oh, you'll be fine, you'll pick it up." And then as soon as I started, he said, "Oh, well, now you're gonna do your regular job, which is storyboard revisions, but plus the designer left, the prop designer that we had. So we're gonna need you to cover her. Like you're gonna bounce back 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off of each thing." And I had never done prop design before, and these have to be set and ready for the animators to animate. So it's a whole other technical level. It's not just designing something because in boards you'll have to design some props, but they're just a static drawing. These had to actually be usable. So then I'm the only one working. I'm spending the whole workday just Googling things and trying to learn the program and figure out how to do it. And then I spend another whole 10 hours trying to get my job done. So I was exhausted. I was working such long days, trapped in the house. My kids are homeschooled at the dining room table that's right, like just feet from me. I'm trying to focus on all this stuff. And I just fell into like such a depression because it was like I didn't have a life. I didn't have anything to look forward to. I couldn't even like sit and relax and watch TV at the end of the day. It was like just crazy. So I started TED Talks, getting audiobooks, anything I could think of. Like, how do I get joy when it's not obviously around me, right? Like it's just everything's just so hard. And then plus, you're seeing the news and all the tragedy too. So it wasn't just like my house environment. I'm watching this happen like globally. So it was just I was thinking, okay, this is the universe. Like, how much can they
Yeah.
really tolerate? Let's see how messed up we can make it for them. Right. So I saw a TED Talk, and it was this lady talking about her book on joy and how little things in your environment can make you happy. Her name is Ingrid Fattel Lee, and her book is called Joyful. I started to just incorporate some of the things like getting flowers and putting by my desk, having a candle, just little things that I could do because I didn't have any of my stuff either. It's like usually, you'll have comfort in your own environment, your own stuff. I'm like a guest in someone's house basically this
Yeah.
whole time. So I had to find little ways to kind of personalize it. And then just started reading all kinds of books on anything I could think of to make me happy. So just started having all these little hacks. I made special playlists. I wouldn't watch any sad movies or TV shows or even really any dramas. It was all just comedies. Luckily, with my job, since I'm drawing, I can listen to things. And then it was just making sure that I paid attention to every little way that I could make my life happier. And gradually it worked little piece by little piece. And then the better you get at it, the more other things you see that you can do. Your mind starts to open up. And I had reread this book called The Book of Awesome that is so good because it's not a self help book per se. The author wrote it because of a blog that he had because he'd gone through a divorce and his best friend committing suicide right at the same time. So that every day he would just try to write something that he thought was awesome on this blog. And then he like put the best stuff into this book. And the thing that's cool about it is that it's just little things like, when you're in a restaurant and whoever's waiting on you always knows when you're out of iced tea and always brings you tea and brings you whatever you need and you never have to worry about it. It's like those little glorious times like, oh, it's
Yeah.
awesome. Where you parallel park it perfectly the first time. Or like another thing that I thought was so funny that he talks about is illegal naps. Like when you're supposed to be working or you're supposed to be doing something else and you go and you take a nap. And after you start reading all these things, then you go through your day, you start noticing those things that happen. You're like, this could be in the book of awesome. This is awesome. It's these little things kind of reprograms your mind for gratitude for like everyday things that you take for granted. And so just reminding myself of that to look for little things every day that just made things better. And then I would go out and I'd work in my sister's garden. Like I would make sure that I got up like every hour for like 10 minutes or so. I just went in the garden and pulled weeds or did whatever, just kind of touched the earth and touched plants, even if I wasn't doing anything really creative, although sometimes I did. So sometimes I'd get her a tree and I'd plant it in the yard, or I'd plant some flowers for her, or the front of the house is a little peely and stuff. I'm like, let's paint it. It was like a gray on gray, like the trim was gray and the house is gray. Like, let's put white, let's like brighten it up. So we would do little projects like that. And just working on little things in my environment or just getting in touch with certain things that you might just forget about really help.
Yeah. And it's worth saying too, the way to joy is to embody it. And I think that you did that so gracefully. If we're chasing it, then you're just caught in the chase of it, right?
Mhm,
Just constantly seeking more of it. Or when you're seeking it, you're kind of focused on not having it. So I
mhm.
think by taking action towards embodying joy, I think that's probably what was so helpful in you just really turning your attitude around. I'm curious how your attitude about joy and finding joy every day, how that affected the household, not just your family, but also your sisters. Were you rubbing off on them?
You know what? I don't know. It's hard to say because at the same time while we were there, my sister was having a lot of health issues and she ended up in the hospital a couple times. So their family had that stress going on too, on top of us being in their house. So
Mm.
I don't know, but I think it's got to help if somebody is not moping around and can not be that extra burden. I think it helped for sure.
Mm.
If I was sitting at my desk crying every day, which there were times, but still there's going to be challenges and things that happen and stuff. But I think it definitely makes it easier, any little bit better you can be around the people that are around you. And I think it helped my kids get through it. Seeing the example of me just sitting at my desk every day working, getting my stuff done, not just laying in bed all day or, all the things that you could do in that situation. A lot of people just wouldn't even be able to get up, you know?
Right.
And I just always made it a point to just model for them, okay, like this is hard. You guys are having a hard time in school. You're gonna have to sit and work. I'm sitting and working, and we're just gonna have to make do with what we've got. Like we're just gonna have to keep going and things will get better. And they eventually did, but it was just a long, long haul. So especially once my husband did get a job, he got a job in September of that year. So, okay, we'll start looking for a house to rent. And then it was the housing shortage. So we were having trouble finding a house. So the kids were all excited, like, we're going to move. And then it was, we're not going to move. It's like we kept putting in applications and it was more of a bidding situation. It wasn't like, oh, we'll just, rent a place. It was, okay, well, we have 30 applicants. This person can pay a year's rent in advance. Can you pay a year's rent in advance? We're like, no. We're just like ready to move and want to go. So we had to wait that out. So we didn't end up moving until New Year's Day in 2021. Yeah. So it took a while. And my husband amazingly had just such a great attitude the whole time with his job hunting and stuff. That helped too. He always was at it, kept going. He took a temp job for a while, did that. Like he just kept going and doing what he could. So I think that combination just helped everybody, but I think just taking action and doing is always better than doing nothing. Anytime you're doing, you're moving forward, and if you stop and just stand there and wallow, that's when things are bad. I think your mind and your soul needs to see you're progressing somewhere and making some kind of movement. So, I think doing is always good.
Yeah, I agree. I loved what you said about gardening and just getting out there in the ground, just touching the earth. It literally does ground you in a certain sense, but bringing fresh flowers into the home. What are some other things that you did around the house? And now now you're in your own place. You're out of your
Mhm.
sister's house.
Yeah.
So what are some things that you've done in your new space to kind of help you keep the momentum of joy going?
Um, Colorful art. I thought a lot of, especially since I love animation, I have a lot of stuff that's really colorful. pictures on the wall and stuff like that, throw pillows on the couch. I keep everything kind of neutral so I could change things all the time, but always a lot of color. And I put a lot of careful thought into lighting because I think lighting affects your mood. I think people forget that in their home. And so I don't have like a bunch of bright overhead lights on all the time. I have lights just where I need them. And I'm really picky about light bulbs. I think since LED bulbs have come into the mainstream, they don't really tell you how to buy light bulbs. They don't tell you there's like this little color chart on the box. And
Mhm.
there's either a daylight bright white, which is kind of a bluish light, or there's the warm white. And so I always make sure I look at the box and I go to the warmer end of the spectrum. So I have nice warm lighting in the house. It's just more cozy and more natural. And it's more what we've evolved to seeing at night, like the glow of a fire or whatever. And even like during the day, everybody's favorite times of the day are sunrise and sunset when the light has like a little different kind of a color to it, especially sunset is like a warmer time. So it's, if you really like that, you need to make sure that you have that type of a mood in your house so
Mhm.
that you can be more comfortable. And I think people don't realize either, since my daughter has insomnia, I read a whole book on insomnia. And one of the things in the book is not to have, looking obviously your screens and computers and stuff. And if you do those blue blocking glasses, if you have those blue lights in your house, it's the same effect. So you need to have the warm light. It just helps you relax in the evening, helps you sleep. It's a different way that it affects your retina and it will keep you awake. Like it does a biological thing to kind of keep you awake.
Interesting.
So,
I love the analogy of the sunrise and the sunset and how most humans are just drawn to that because I do that too. I just like the lighting just right. It's kind of funny. I just did this last night. My mother in law took the kids out for some Christmas event. And it's so funny. You could tell our age now because,
mhm.
my younger self would have been like, well, where are we going to go? Let's go out to eat, but it was like Monday. And I was like, you know what? The house is decorated. I have the tree up. I have the candles. Everything was lit so perfectly in the living room. And my living room is like one of my favorite places to just be so cozy.
Mhm.
And it was so pretty that I just was like, you know what? Let's just stay in. Like, let's just enjoy this peaceful, quiet night tonight. Like, we don't have to go anywhere. We don't have to go do anything. We don't have to spend any money. Like, let's just enjoy a nice, quiet night. My kids are young. They're both under 10. I mean,
uh,
they're not wild and crazy 2-year olds, but still, like when they're home, they're home, right?
yeah.
um, but it's interesting because as we're talking, I'm realizing it was the way that my living room was lit up that made me want to stay in last night? So that's such an interesting
Yeah.
thought
It,
about lighting.
yeah. It doesn't cost anything to do that. And if all you have is bright overhead lights, go to a thrift store, pick up a lamp. You can even make a lampshade.
Right.
There's lots of different ways you could do it to make it more comfortable. And another thing that I do too, that I learned from my research on joy is the shape of objects in your space affect how you feel. So lots of round things, circles, things like that, they're happy. Like even I know from my work, if you want a cartoon character to appeal to children, you do lots of big round shapes. And so I gravitate towards buying things that are more playful round shapes. Like I've got this lamp here. I don't know if you can kind of see the
Yeah, I
reflection.
can see them
It's
hanging in
like
the
an
me
oblong, kind of a
Yeah,
fun it's more playful. It's like
yeah.
things in the shape of like a ball or things that you'd wanna just play with. So, yeah, I like having a little jar with, like, gumballs in it because it's colorful and it's round, just sitting out to look pretty, or a bowl of colorful marbles, or just any little thing you could put here and there. Picture frames that are round instead of square.
Interesting.
Furniture with soft round edges so you don't have that subconscious feeling like you're gonna bump into something or get hurt on it. Like, the more softness you can put around you. If I'm watching a TV show or a movie, you can see it if they're setting the mood. The art director will put in softer shapes in a playful place or a soft place and hard edges if the scene's scary or whatever. Um, so they do use it in all kinds of things that you're not aware of, make you feel a certain way. And
Mm.
so I try to make sure I keep that in mind in the house. As long as you just have as much fun as you can along the way. Look for the awesome little things that happen and like come together and stuff like that. So
I love what you guys are modeling. You shared your husband's attitude about finding a job was still positive and you were able to recognize that. And I love that you're modeling that for your children because I think that's where in parenting it gets tough because you have to show them resiliency but you
Mhm.
also have to show them your raw self. Like, this is hard and we're doing the best we can. And
Mhm.
I'm curious, was that modeled for you as a child?
I was
Yeah.
always very, like, positive and I grew up with alcoholic parents, both of them, so that was really tough. It was kind of a chaotic way to grow up in the home, and, but me and my twin sister, we would just bond together and we would find ways to just have an escape from that. So we would go out in nature. It was back in the day, you could go ride your bike all day and like, you'd just be out with your friends all day and it was fine. So we would do that. We would get out a lot. We would sit and draw and do our art. I always had a creative spark in me and I wanted to learn to play an instrument. Like I wanted to play violin or piano, but we never had the money for that growing up. But paper and pencils were cheap. I also had a fascination with art. So I would look in like my dad's old art history books and stuff, and I would just like be in awe of what people could do. So I would just sit in and draw. And we would always decorate our bedroom. We always shared a room and we would rearrange it all the time. Like we would move the furniture around because we noticed that like it would lift our mood to see something different, like variety. It makes you notice things if you move stuff around.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my daughter already knows she's an artist and she loves to tell me that because her room is always very messy. And that's really challenging for someone like me who's a designer and I like things pretty. And then
yeah.
I also practice feng shui. So I like things orderly. I don't like a lot of clutter. So it's
Uh-huh.
funny and an interesting dynamic, but she loves to tell me that, "Mom, I'm creative, and
Uh-huh.
creative children have messy rooms." She loves to tell me that all the time.
Where'd she get
But
that from?
I think it's probably YouTube. Who
That's
knows?
funny.
But what's interesting is every time we go in to clean her room, she finds things that she hasn't played with in a while. We've even shifted her bedroom around. And I remember doing this as a kid too. It's a shift of energy. It's just clearing out stagnant spaces, right? And when you
Mhm.
need to change, it's interesting how we do that to our space when we need it, but we do it unconsciously, right? Like we don't realize
Yeah.
we need it. But then when you do it, you're like, oh, this feels so much better, right? It's
Yeah.
things are moved around. I found in her case toys that I haven't played with in 6 months. And then she spends her whole night in there playing with those toys she found, like it's
Yeah.
an energetic shift.
For sure. And I think what kids don't realize, and a lot of people don't realize about clutter and things in your house, is that the human mind likes to see order. And it goes back to caveman days. So, this is one of the things that I had come across in my research when I was trying to like cheer up. So, on a subconscious level, if you have a lot of clutter and a lot of mess and your brain can't really organize it, it causes stress because back in caveman days, you needed the order to see the danger, right, in your environment. Even though that's totally not going to happen, you still have that. You need to see the order and where everything is. It gives you a sense of calm. And a lot of people will say, no, I just like it a mess. I need it a mess. I know where everything is. I don't think they realize on the subconscious level that it's probably an issue that's kind of grinding them at the back of their head. And also I have ADHD. So if I'm looking at a bunch of things that I feel like I need to do, I'm
Yes.
pulled all kinds of different directions. I need to be able to just sit and work and not worry about any kind of chaos going
Yeah.
around me. I think if people realized that little hack,
Hmm.
the things that they don't know at a subconscious level, they could really up their environment just by doing that, even if you don't have the money to decorate or buy things or whatever that you would want. Having it orderly, having some nice, subtle lighting that is calming, getting some flowers when you go to Trader Joe's just to treat yourself. Little things like that, all of a sudden you'll feel better. And then even on a social level, like one of the moms I knew at my kid's old school, she was talking to me one day and she's like, yeah, I'd really like to have people over and stuff, but my husband won't let me because the house is too much of a mess. And it's like, that's blocking a lot of joy coming into the home by having to put up these walls and like have this shame associated with how you're living. Whereas if you just took the time to go through it or get someone to professionally help you or a family member who will crack the whip on you and get that straightened out, I mean that can really be life changing, especially for kids. They want to have
Yeah.
friends over and they want to have social stuff and you don't want your phone closed off to the world. As much as you need to go out, you also need to bring the outside world in. But I think most people would benefit from having their home in such a state that they can have people come by and visit and make memories in your house.
Absolutely. I want to go back to the cluttered space. That's one of the biggest things we work on in feng shui. I mean, it's step one, right? Even if clients don't have a lot of clutter, it's what needs removed. We say cluttered space, cluttered mind, just as you were saying. And people don't get the subconscious connection to it all. So I love that you touched on that because it is really important. And that's really what clutter is. Let's, to set the record straight, everybody has clutter on some level. It's just impossible to not have it. But if there's something that consistently shows up for you, that's something to look at, right? It's all about the flow and the energy. And if you have too much, let it go. Let it
Yeah.
go.
Like my kids are always asking, one in particular is always like, I want this, I want to buy that. And I'll say no. And they'll say, but it's only $5 or it's only a dollar, something at the dollar section or whatever. I said, it's not about that. It's about like, it's every time you wanted something, you got it. All of a sudden, the house would be so full of things. You wouldn't even be able to see the things you really want or they're really special to you anymore. They would be lost. So I always try to remind them of that. Like, just close your eyes and picture everything you've ever wanted that you asked for. Now picture all of that stuff in your room.
Yeah.
It's just, it's crazy, you
Yeah.
know?
Wow. I mean, back to my daughter, she's like that. I mean, up and down the aisles, every 5 things, she's like, "Can I get this? Oh my god, I love this. Can I have this?" She's a challenge when it comes to that. And of course, she's still 7, so she doesn't get it. She's starting to, but I love that idea of presenting it to them that way because they do. They want everything they see, everything. And
Yep.
you don't want to deny them because you want to be like, "You're
Mhm.
abundant. You can have, you know."
Yeah.
It's hard. It's
There's
challenging.
so much there's no such thing as too much abundance, yeah.
Yeah.
I tell the
Yeah.
kids I do the same thing myself too, like, sometimes out shopping, like, "Oh, this is so cute, I would like to get it," or and then I think, like, "Where would it go?" And then I think, "Oh, maybe it's okay just to enjoy it here." Like, when I'm out shopping, like, now, instead of thinking of, like, what I wanna buy, I just wanna, like, be in the beautiful shop or be in the thing and enjoy all the things there and get to go back and see what changes and see what's new and not have to actually own all of that stuff, you know? Or if it's something that I really think is neat that maybe I think I can make, well, maybe I'll turn into a project, something I could do at home that's kind of fulfilling for myself. But it's hard. Yeah, I want tons of things too. There's so
Yeah.
many cute things out there that there's no limit to like what I'd want to get.
Yeah.
But it's good to really think about it as far as like what do you really need?
Yeah. I'm curious, Angela, what else brings you joy?
As far as outside the house or like things that are not tangible, I would want to say volunteering brings a lot of joy. You get a lot from it when you give. It's a different kind of a thing than anything else you do. And I had been in a rut for a while since we moved into this house, busy with the kids in school because like that first year here, they were still homeschooled and busy with all that and busy at work and stuff like that. And then I started realizing I'm like, I am just so busy and go, go, go all the time. I don't necessarily have things to look forward to like I used to. And so there's a place nearby that I always wanted to volunteer at. And I finally signed up to do it. And that was awesome. Like
Yeah.
that was so much fun. It's a type of a museum, and I can't say what it is because when they have you volunteer, you're not allowed to say you volunteer there publicly, but it's not the kind of place that was going to be heavy on me, like volunteering at a soup kitchen or something like that, because I'm a very empathic kind of person. So a lot of that kind of energy is hard for me. So I realized like those things, it's better for me to donate money rather than time. So this is just a pure joy with something related to artistic stuff. And it's just something I can share with people. And everyone who comes there, it's really special to them. And they really love it because it's like a non traditional kind of space. And it's something that's only open once a month. So it's
Yeah.
not like a big obligation. And I look forward to it all month. I'm always excited to go. So, yeah, if you can find something that's your thing,
Hmm.
uh, that won't weigh you down, it could really bring you joy or balance it. So, because we're not meant to carry the weight of the world on our shoulders all the time. So,
Right.
to be careful because then we can't give back as much as we want. You have to recharge your batteries.
I love that you brought up volunteering. I was actually reading a book by Dr. Wayne Dyer, and it was on a chapter about joy.
Mhm.
And one of the best ways that you can experience joy for yourself is to give it away. You come into this world with nothing and you leave with nothing. So give your life, your joy, your happiness, whatever, just give it to other people. And it's the same thing as whatever you put out there comes back to you tenfold, right? It's that energetic exchange. So I love that you put that out there, your time and your joy, and you're giving that away. And that's touching so many people on so many levels because it radiates and
Mhm.
it attracts more to you and just makes their day so much better, whoever it is you're working with, whether it is something that is more joyful or whether it's not. Like you were saying, some of the more sadder situations, like you made a difference in that person's life just for even an hour out of your day.
It's always good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Oprah that said it once, you're here to serve, but you're not supposed to be the main course. So make sure you don't
Mhm.
overdo it. Make sure it's something you wanna do and don't make it take over your whole life. Maybe checking in with yourself and saying, "Okay, does this still feel good to me? Is this still a
Right.
good place for me? Am I
Right.
still needed here and wanted as much as I'd like to be?" I know a lot of people who volunteer and they will pivot. They see this place doesn't really seem to need me so much, not showing me so much gratitude when I'm there, but this place over here really could use me. And then they just pivot. So
Yeah.
don't get in a rut. Always reevaluate where you think you need to be. And also I think your own passions and your own things like will change over time and they evolve. So, you may just find that you're being pulled in another direction. And I think it's okay to just always check in with yourself so it doesn't become a situation where you're going in with the wrong attitude and coming home miserable. And so you know what else you could do too is sometimes it's just fun to do. Every now and again, I'll do it. Just take $5 and stick it somewhere where someone will find it.
Mhm.
Maybe a little child will find it, or stuff it inside a little opening in the crack of a box of diapers or something. Like a mom might really need like $10 and just put it in there and then just
Oh,
walk
that's
away. I think the
funny.
best feeling. It's not expensive. It doesn't take any time. And
Oh
you
my
just
gosh.
wonder where that went to and just kind of put it out
Yeah.
there. Like I've done that before.
Oh,
So
that's so good.
just
Yeah.
do something that will just be on somebody's list. They could say that could be in the book of awesome. Just do some little thing like that, like or just extra tip for the waitress than you would normally tip,
Yeah.
or just when you have the opportunity to actually like you're in Target and the person who waits on you is really awesome, go to their manager and say they were awesome, they were amazing. Just little things like that you can do too that will bring yourself joy and them joy. You feel good when you do that. So
Yeah.
my mom was dying and we were visiting her at the hospital. We took a break and went across the street to this restaurant to have dinner. And when I was there getting ready to pay, I realized I left my wallet. I had taken it out of my purse for some reason and left it in my mom's hospital room. And I told the guy there, so I'm like, okay, I don't want to have to reorder this all. Can you save this order or print it up so that I don't have to reorder it all? I just have to run across the street to the hospital and get my wallet. And I said, I'm sorry, like I'm well scatterbrained because my mom is dying and I'm just like not mentally here. Sorry to take up your time kind of thing. And then as I was getting ready to leave, I found a lady next to me in line waiting for her food. I had just paid for my whole family's dinner. I
Oh
was
my
like,
God.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I was like, "Oh, but it's just so nice." Then I repaid that favor to someone else, at another time. And so it's just nice to be able to do that sometimes.
Absolutely. It doesn't need to look extravagant and it doesn't need to be this huge time commitment. It's just every day, little small acts of kindness can bring so much joy to someone's life. I love
Yeah, to yourself. Yes, I try to think of something every day, even if it's just like stuff for my kids, like making sure they come in the door from school that I'm like so excited to see them,
Yeah.
that I light up for them and that I ask them how their day was and just little things like that, like can make a difference in people's days. And it's so easy, like when your kids come home to go like, okay, get your homework done, grab your snack. We have to go to hockey practice, clean your room. Like you start going up on this list. At least I do. Try to make sure that I at least have that moment when they get home so they can go, "Ah, I'm home," instead
Mhm.
of or you
Mhm.
can do that when your spouse or anyone else. It's so
Yeah.
easy to be like in go and do mode. Like make sure you take time to like appreciate people and take a minute for them to just.
Absolutely. Yeah. One thing I do for the kids every day, at least during the week, is make their bed. And so they bolt right to their rooms on their devices just to like mellow out and their beds are made. And there's something so, I don't know about you, but there's something so joyful about getting into or just seeing a freshly made bed. And
Yes.
that's one
I
thing I'm like,
always make my bed. Always make my bed.
yes.
So yeah, I think that would be great. I should do that maybe just as a surprise for my kids to see if they even notice.
Yeah. And I don't know how young your kids are, but I like to, position the stuffed animals like they're having a conversation or one's holding one like a baby, do all kinds of weird
Oh,
things or
that's
put
really
sunglasses on them. right? And it just gives them a little giggle when they get home. It's just
Oh, that's
cute.
cute. I love that. That's fun. And then
Yeah.
you get the satisfaction of like, there's a little order in there.
Yeah, exactly. It's part of my morning routine. Like you said, we're saying earlier, you have to set up yourself for your day so that your brain isn't like, oh my gosh, the dishwasher or the laundry. Like you just can come in here and work and you know it's done. I have that same routine because I'm not diagnosed ADHD, but I definitely have tendencies. So that is important for me too. But yeah, just some sense of order is so helpful. Well, I'm definitely gonna put those books you mentioned because I think everybody would probably be interested in checking those out. I mean, just these little things we can do just to make our lives easier and a little more joyful. Thank you, Angela, so much for coming on. And
Thanks for having me. That was
all
fun.
right.
There's certainly a difference between joy and happiness that I think sometimes the lines get blurred. My experience or definition is that happiness is only experienced at certain times. Happy moments are sort of fleeting, they come and they go. Whereas joy is a state of being, it's what we are or what we forgot we are. I love this quote from Anthony DeMello, who stated, "There's only one reason why you're not experiencing bliss at this present moment, and it's because you're thinking or focusing on what you don't have." Angela intuitively knew that it was up to her to shift her state of being. And if she was going to cultivate more joy or even just an attitude of more joy, she had to change her mind and choose it. I love the little things that Angela integrates into her home so that she is surrounded by joyful things. I mean, the round things, that was so interesting to learn about. And it makes so much sense. Just how she explained that in children's animation, that round things create joyful experiences. What a great reminder of how images and objects speak to us on a subconscious level. I'd love to know what your take is on this episode. What are you surrounding yourself with at home? Or how are you giving back to remind yourself that joy is your natural state? Thank you so much for being here. Just a reminder that the best way to support me and this podcast is to rate, review, or share this podcast with your friends or family. Reviews in particular really help us grow so that we can reach as many people as possible. Podcasting for me is about helping you and others heal and balance and open up to a simpler way of living and being. Also, I'm looking for guests that would like to come on and talk about their home. Maybe this is changes you've made or ways in which you've implemented what you consider to be sacred space, as well as anyone who would like to have an open dialogue about creating that for yourself. You could consider it sort of a mini consultation live with me on the podcast. So if that sounds fun, please reach out to me directly via email at jsd@jadescottdesign.com. I'll put that down in the show notes as well. Until next time, much love and gratitude.